Welcome back to Walkthrough Wednesdays here on my channel. My name is James, and in this series I'm going to break down photography, Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere Pro, just about anything within the creative realm, Adobe realm, that I believe are simple skills that any photographer needs to know. Maybe you just need a tune-up, maybe it's something new, a new skill, anything of the sort. My goal is to break these steps down for you and explain it to you in a beginner-friendly manner. So with that being said, today's episode, we're going to focus on the 5 first tools that you should learn inside of Photoshop. So with that being said, let's open it up. All right, so I have my photo just opened up here already. I know it's overexposed. I'm not too worried about that. I can do a whole video on color correction. Maybe that'll come. But right now, I'm not worried about the overexposure. So critics out there, I know, I get it. But the 5 tools that we're going to show, that I'm going to show, first I'm going to start with is the crop tool. But the first thing that I like to do when I open an image in Photoshop is duplicate the background, just so that I always have like the original photo to work with or to fall back on. So I'm just going to duplicate my photo, Control J, and I just turn the viewing off of that one. But first tool I'm going to use is that crop tool. So I'm going to find that here in my toolbar. And I'm just going to, it's just like any other crop tool you've ever used before. You can bring in the sides, kind of position it how you want. And honestly speaking, if you're a photographer working with images, Lightroom is probably the more streamlined version of this. Photoshop just does a lot of the heavy lifting. And I think that the crop tool in Lightroom is tenfold compared to the one here in Photoshop, but just personal take. But super simple. That's tool number 1. Tool number 2 is the spot healing brush. And thinking like, when might I use the spot healing brush? I'm thinking of like people doing senior portraits or family photos. If you have kids or teenagers with like acne or blemishes or spills or stains on their shirt or tan lines, you can use a spot healing to mask or blend those blemishes out. And so what that tool is, it's the little band-aid looking one here, spot healing brush. And for my photo, I'm going to just kind of blend out this crack and this blemish here in this concrete wall. So I'm just going to drag it over and just masks it out for me. And to my understanding, how it works is it's taking the pixels surrounding the shaded area and morphing them all together to blend that in into the new area. So you can kind of see the idea there. Tool number 3 is the clone stamp tool. And this one's kind of a fun one. I enjoy using this when I teach this in class. Students always, they forget that there's kind of 2 steps to it. They'll just go to the tool and click, and then they'll raise their hand like, it's not working, it's broken, how do I make it work? But if you leave this pop-up, you have to tell Photoshop where to clone from. Makes sense, right? But so to tell Photoshop where to clone from, you have to press and hold the Alt key on your keyboard. I'm going to make my brush a little bigger. Just press and hold Alt, and it's going to turn your cursor to like this crosshair. And just with my mouse, I'm just going to click in the center of that. And I know you probably won't often clone or duplicate a concrete barrier, but if you have a blemish where your spot healing doesn't really work, or you got something wrong with skin, you could match tan lines again. If they got a wash tan line, you could clone stamp over their skin. But I'm using this concrete barrier just to show kind of drastically how it can work. But so now that I chose with that Alt key, I'm going to just click and drag with my mouse. You can see on the original concrete barrier there, this cloned, or it tells me where I'm cloning from. I'm just going to go right up to the top, to the edge. Whoops, getting that guy's jeans in there. On this side. I just watch, kind of multitasking, looking at the original concrete barrier as to where I'm at any given time. And I'm just going to color this in. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Speed this up. All right, and then you have your second concrete barrier that looks pretty natural, from afar. All right, the next tool I want to show is the dodge and burn tool. It's kind of a 2-in-1. And I'm going to use this guy here as my subject. So dodge and burn tool are down here. The dodge tool looks like I think like an old school glass thermometer. and then the burn tool is a little hand that looks like it's pinching. But this dodge tool, what this does is it's going to lighten pixels. So if you have a subject with like a shadow on their face, or a shadow that you don't really want, you can use this dodge tool to lighten those pixels, and it's going to get rid of that. You can kind of see how it's working here on my subject. If I switch that over to the burn tool, it's going to do just the opposite. Okay, so it's going to take those pixels and it's going to darken them. So if I want to add kind of a shadow to it, I can do that as well. But be careful, if you go too much, you're going to burn the pixels, right? That makes sense, and it's going to look pretty bad. But just so you can kind of see it there. And then the last tool I want to show is the type tool. Pretty self-explanatory, but there is a lot that you can do with type. I'm just going to kind of quickly show you. So if you're making thumbnails, or a flyer, a promotional, maybe you're posting something on Instagram, you want to have some text on it, you can add a lot of flavor to your text simply just within your type tool itself. So I'm just going to type in summertime, and then I like to manipulate my text using my character panel. And to get that, you just go up to your window, make sure that this character panel is selected, and it gives you all this here where you can choose your different fonts that you want, the size. You can stretch your letters or shrink them down. I always usually stretch mine bigger, so it keeps the character size at 60, but then I'm stretching from there. And I'll keep all that the same. I think that's pretty good. Confirm. And then what I like to add to my text to make it a little juicy, if you will, is I'm going to go to my layer blending options. Down here, that little FX at the bottom of my layers, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to add stroke. I'm going to do a black stroke and make it 20. Looks good there. Just gives it that stark contrast there on your letters. And then I like to add a drop shadow as well. And this really makes your letters kind of pop off the screen. You can manipulate it however you need to. And I like to kind of make it look 3D and hit OK. Okay, and that's super basic. There's tons more that you can do to your text. But that's just kind of where I'm going to leave it for this right now. But that's 5 tools that any photographer getting started in Photoshop should know. And that's where I would start if I were starting brand new learning photography. Those are kind of, other than color correction, those are the 5 tools that I would dive into first to clean up and enhance my photo. And that wraps up this episode of Walkthrough Wednesdays. Please, if you enjoyed watching this and you feel like you learned something, or like my style of teaching, please. All right, and that wraps up today's episode of Walkthrough Wednesday. If you learned something, liked something that I showed you, the way that I explain it, anything like that, please like and subscribe. Comment down below what tool of the 5 is your favorite. With that being said, I will see you next time.